Hi there everyone, it's Samaya here. So I wanted to put a little message out there, particularly to women involved in the sort of New Age community and in the spiritual community. I'm kind of noticing a lot of this kind of, this kind of movement of the goddess and the, divine feminine, which I absolutely love. I love that that's being represented, and I love that there's a voice out there for it. But I guess one thing that I noticed that kind of slightly bothers me, and I'd like to see something different happening, a more creative way of women engaging with that kind of divine aspect of themselves, is I guess there's a lot of talk and attachment to this identity of the goddess from a particular kind of type of person, I guess, that is very much sort of in the sort of language. You see a lot of the goddess being used in language, but not necessarily in action. And I feel like I'd like to see personally more women and men, because the goddess is not exclusive to women, perhaps connecting with that archetype in a more esoteric way, so see less of the talking, but more women and men doing their empowered work and connecting with their, divine elements and their intuition and the sensitivity and the power and the wisdom and the groundedness through the work, through their lives, through whatever we are here to do, but in a more esoteric way, in a quieter way, in speech, and a louder way in action. Because I feel what sometimes happens when we keep on talking about and making announcements about this, and I'm the goddess and I'm this and I'm that, what I feel happens is almost like it sends a message that, the opposite message, that we don't believe we are enough, so we need to shout out that we are being something. So how can we find a creative way of putting ourselves out there and perhaps, being the powerful healer or the powerful shaman or the kind of educator and the light worker, but in a way that is just doesn't need to use that kind of broadcasting, hey, I am that. But really then kind of think about more subtle ways that are more powerful ways. So, and in a way I'm thinking of just the whole tool of alchemy. An alchemist is about turning wisdom into experience, turning knowledge and understanding and insight into experience, and there's something about that tool and knowing how to use that in a way that is really the evidence that we are the goddess and the gods and the educators and the shamans that we are in the world and in our lives. Something I'd like to see more of that happening. I love the inspirational and fun content that is out there in Facebook and social media, but I'd love to see more of that kind of quieter talking and more powerful presence through the way we show up in our lives. And I include myself in that. So I guess I feel like sometimes when I communicate these things is one way of putting it out there for myself to address it as well. So let's just see, how can we all think of more creative, esoteric ways of communicating and showing up and being a presence in the world and in what we're here to do, without having to kind of always broadcast, what we are and who we are. So, and I think that it's almost like using the law of attraction and saying, you're trying to continuously affirm a reality that you already are. Sometimes we need to just be that and not need to step into that, rather than just kind of keep on telling ourselves something, So there's just a very subtle difference there. So yeah, I'd love to see more people being creative with this whole notion of a goddess, a priestess, and let that kind of, wording and that kind of labeling become less of a label and more of an experience, and maybe, allow that kind of identity kind of show up in your life as presence and as action and as, you know, experience, as opposed to having to just affirm that label all the time. I don't know if that's useful for anybody. I'm finding it useful and I thought to share it. Yeah, there's something about the esoteric qualities and as opposed to the labels, and knowing how to be them. So I hope this finds you well, and I hope you enjoy your day. Bye.